All right, hello everyone, welcome back. I was just going to do a match review on Barcelona's loss to Athletic Bilbao in the Copa del Rey. Obviously, to lose in that fashion, that's just terrible, and Barcelona are obviously now knocked out of the Copa del Rey. And I do think it's deserved for Athletic Bilbao. They played great. I think they did look like the better team with the better chances overall. And I just don't think Barcelona dominated that game enough. They didn't have enough control, especially in the midfield. And I just think individual mistakes and also just lacks of concentration for Barcelona cost them the game. And I think the most important thing, and the thing that I want to talk about the most, is that I just don't understand how Barcelona can go into a game and just look that out of place within 60 seconds. And deservedly, like you could tell in that game, oh my gosh, they're going to score. And of course they do. And I think the commentator said that's now the third time this season that Barcelona have conceded within 60 seconds of a game. That's inexcusable. And then after that first goal, I think Barcelona did well to come back. Obviously, it was pretty fortunate for Lewandowski to score that goal. Yuri Berchiche was just trying to clear the ball out. Lewandowski did well to block his shot or block his pass, and obviously it ended up being a shot. And Lewandowski was fortunate to score that goal. And then Lamine Yamal, just a moment of brilliance. And for 16 years old, it just surprises us every single day how good he is. But then Barcelona are back into the game at halftime. But then coming out of halftime, you're winning 2-1, even though you know that it's not that convincing of a performance. To be winning 2-1, okay, let's try and lock in here. Let's not concede early. Let's not do the exact same thing we did in the first half. Obviously, this time it was 4 minutes afterwards, not 60 seconds. But it's still embarrassing to end up conceding in that fashion because you're taking in so much pressure, you don't have enough control, you just don't look awake, and Barcelona obviously concede. And I think if we look after that second goal, I think Barcelona was in a good place. And up until that point, I don't think that the game was Xavi's fault because, I mean, how can you blame the coach when in 60 seconds, his team already concedes? It's just a lack of concentration. It's not him putting out the wrong lineup. And I would say at that point, after that second goal from Athletic Bilbao, Barcelona did look like they were in more control than they were in the first half when Athletic Bilbao were just all over them. Obviously, they looked a little bit more tired, and pressing that hard, it does take a toll on you and your energy levels. So I think Barcelona, at that moment, they did look like the more comfortable team. And I think at that point, I would probably put some blame on Xavi because Lewandowski, I don't even want to talk too much about his performance, but I just feel like in a game like that, when you want to try and finish the game off and you want to try and score a goal and there is a lot of space in behind and Lewandowski isn't providing anything, me personally, I would put Vitor Roque into that game, or like he did maybe in the 75th minute, I would take Lewandowski out and put João Felix on the left and Ferran Torres on the right. But that's just what I would have done. Maybe that's being a little bit too nitpicky, but at this point, you've got to think about what Barcelona could have done because this game was definitely winnable for them. And then towards the end of full time, it seemed like Barcelona were going to be the ones to score. Lamine Yamal did have a couple chances. Of course, people are going to talk about those, but I don't think we should really be worried about his performance because he was one of the best players and the difference maker on the team for Barcelona today. And again, the end product is going to come. He's 16 years old. I'm not super worried about him missing a couple chances, and especially that last one that he missed. That was the one that he created completely by himself through his pressing, so not really worried about him. Obviously, his right foot isn't great, but we're not worried about that because we saw what he could do with his left foot. So not going to really be too worried about Lamine Yamal missing that chance. I think one of the things I was really confused about in this game was why was Frenkie de Jong the more defensive midfielder? Because I just don't like him in the defensive side of the field. Honestly, his best attributes are going forward. And even though Gundogan isn't a true defensive midfielder, I feel like it's worked better when Gundogan is further behind than Frenkie de Jong is. But in this game, it seemed like Frenkie de Jong was further behind, and it just didn't work out. And in that second goal that Barcelona conceded, he was the one that fell asleep. And again, he's just not that great defensively. His best attributes are going forward. And to get the best out of his abilities, you shouldn't be playing him in that position, I don't think. And Gundogan and Pedri, I also just don't think they made that big of an impact in this game. They weren't very effective. And Pedri, I don't think he even should have played that long because, just coming back from injury, he usually plays 60 minutes. And I feel like from the 60th minute to when he was taken out, he wasn't really doing that much anyways because his legs were tired and it was just hard for him to continue running. So I think Fermin Lopez definitely should have came on in that moment. But instead, Xavi decided to wait until around the 100th minute and he brought on Sergio Roberto. And I don't know if it's Koundé's fault or Sergio Roberto's fault. I think they're both somewhat at fault because Koundé played the ball to Roberto kind of in an uncomfortable position. But Roberto, with 20 seconds to go until the whistle blows, he loses the ball in that situation. That's the one thing that you just cannot do. And of course, Athletic Bilbao are great going on in counterattack and they capitalize on that. In that moment on the field, that's inexcusable. To lose your concentration with 20 seconds to go, you're just folding. And that's the thing that I don't understand with Barcelona recently in the past couple of years is that I feel like they just fold in these big moments. They have such a good team, but they just don't get the best out of their abilities in these big games. And I'm not sure the exact situation with Vitor Roque, but why did he not come on into this game? Because I feel like he would have added something great to Barcelona's attack, especially with all of his pressing and his energy. He would have been a great addition to Barcelona's team, especially later on into the game. And Ferran Torres didn't have the best game, but he was very deserving of his start. Got a hat-trick in the last game. Of course, you're not going to sit him. I think it was right to start him, but after around the 90th minute, I think I would have taken him off because he just looked like he had tired legs and he wasn't making the desired impact that he wanted to have in the game. So at that point, Vitor Roque should have come on. But I don't know. I'm just not sure what's going on with Vitor Roque. I don't know why he wouldn't have gone on. But then eventually, Xavi did bring on Merck Guiu, and he looks pretty good, but it was just a little bit too late for that. And I haven't really checked Twitter. I'm not sure if people are going to blame Xavi on that. I do think the later in-game management, I don't think it was that great. I think maybe he could have made better subs. And obviously, hindsight is a great thing. But I thought when it was happening, I was really confused why Sergio Roberto came on. I was confused why Lewandowski stayed on the field for that long. And also, I'm not sure why Vitor Roque didn't make an impact and get in this game at some point. But just to get that negative stuff out of the way, I do think there were a lot of positives. Lamine Yamal, of course, was one. That first goal that he scored was incredible. That was just so fun to watch. And Pau Cubarsí, when he came on, he was great. All the kids from La Masia were great. And Hector Ford, of course, deserves a lot of praise for that performance. To come into a game like that in a really difficult situation, playing out of your position. He's naturally a right back, and he put up such a good performance against Athletic Bilbao. And now I guess I'll just go through each Barcelona player that played today and give my opinions on their performance and just rate how good they did. I think starting with Inaki Peña, he was pretty good. I realize I've just been looking at the wrong thing, so hopefully my eyes aren't looking weird. But Inaki Peña, I think he was decent. It looked a little bit shaky, and I feel like that's just been kind of the story of his season. He did make a really good save to keep Barcelona into the game late into the extra time, but it just didn't really matter. And it just looks a little bit shaky. He's not very commanding of his box, and I think I am kind of excited for Ter Stegen to come back. And then Koundé, I think he did pretty good in the first 90 minutes, and maybe it was just tired legs. It was, I mean, of course, dealing with Nico Williams the entire game is a really difficult task, and I think he did pretty good in that regard. But that extra time performance was not great, I'll be honest. And Ronald Araujo, I think, deserves a lot of credit. I think maybe his performance might go under the radar because, I mean, he was hurt in that game as well. I thought he was going to get taken off for Pau Cubarsí, but it ended up being Christensen, and so Ronald Araujo to stay on the field and give that performance, of course, I think he deserves a lot of praise for that. And he was one of the players that was a positive impact on Barcelona's game. And then Christensen, I guess, was decent, but honestly, Cubarsí, even if it was maybe later into the game where the pressure was off of him a little bit, I think Cubarsí did look better, honestly. And again, as I talked about earlier with Hector Ford, I'm going to give his performance a 9 out of 10 because that, honestly, that was incredible. To come into that game, it's such a difficult game to go into, and Ernesto Valverde actually moved Nico Williams onto the right side to go against Hector Ford because maybe he thought, oh, he's just 17 years old, let Nico Williams go at him. And he held up his own, and he did great. And obviously, Nico Williams just said, well, it's not working over here, so I'm going to go to the other side again. Hector Ford is really one of the only players that I think should be really happy with his performance tonight, and I think he was just let down by the experienced players at Barcelona. But himself, he put up a great performance. And then Frenkie de Jong, I touched on earlier, I don't think he had a very good performance. He was working really hard. He was one of those players that was running the entire 120 minutes, and I think in that way, he did put up a good performance because at least he was putting up a fight. But I just think he was played out of position, and he's one of those players that does struggle without a defensive midfielder, and of course, this was just one of those games. With İlkay Gündoğan, this is one of those games where I'm just questioning his role in Barcelona's team, and I just don't feel like he had a very good performance, and especially later on into the game, he just didn't look like he was making an impact, and I wouldn't have minded if he was subbed, honestly. But with how much quality he had at City, of course, I think that's more of a team thing than an İlkay Gündoğan thing. I think it's just not having a defensive midfielder, because when he was at City, obviously he was playing next to De Bruyne, and he had Rodri behind him. It's going to make things a little bit easier than it is to be played out of position in a defensive midfield role. And maybe I was just seeing something that wasn't there, but I just feel like Frenkie de Jong was more defensive than Gündoğan this game. And I feel like that's one of the things that just didn't provide that much balance for Barcelona, because if it's Frenkie de Jong, Pedri, and Gündoğan, it should be Gündoğan as the deepest playmaker for Barcelona. And Lamine Yamal, that goal that he scored was incredible, and he's one of those players for Barcelona that can just create something for himself. And that was just one of those moments. Of course, people are going to talk about those misses. He did have a couple more opportunities, but I'm just not worried about it because he's 16 years old. That end product is going to come, but he was great today. And Lewandowski, I don't like being negative towards Barcelona players, but there are a lot of games that make me question what he is giving to the team. And I saw that the commentators in this game said that that was his first away goal from open play since August. An away game not scoring from open play since August for our striker. I mean, that is a really bad sign. I know he's complained a lot about service. I really don't think that's the problem. For me, it's almost like he's hindering Barcelona's attack, because with Marc Guiu or Vitor Roque there, I just feel like they're way more active and they're giving more runs for Barcelona. And I think they're opening up the game because I feel like Barcelona just seem a little bit pinned back with Lewandowski starting because the other team knows that there's no attacking threat in behind. Lewandowski is going to be in front of them the entire time. This was one of those games where I feel like the only impact he's making is every time he's getting touched, he's falling to the ground looking for a foul to try and help Barcelona get a free kick. But that's just not enough for Barcelona. Ferran Torres also wasn't able to make an impact in this game. I just feel like it was one of those games that was difficult for Barcelona's attackers. And this was never going to be an easy game for Barcelona, but they have themselves to blame for not winning this game because, again, conceding a goal within 60 seconds of the game, that's embarrassing, and that's coming into the game asleep. If you were awake, that goal would never have happened. And obviously, it was going to be really difficult for Barcelona to bounce back in that game. But for me, the most frustrating and unbelievable part of this game was the 105th minute. 20 seconds to go until the referee blows the whistle. And you lose the ball in such a bad area. And, of course, Athletic Bilbao score. And for Barcelona, that's completely their fault. It was good pressing on their end, but it's completely Barcelona's fault that they lost the ball there. In Barcelona, even if they would have lost some penalties, I would have been way happier with that because the way that they completely folded in extra time, in that moment, it's just terrible. And you think of all the big games that Barcelona are going to try and play this season, and you have to do better than that in those big and competitive moments. Again, Xavi is going to get some blame for his in-game management later on in the game, but I feel like he put out the right starting lineup. I feel like it was the players that were at fault for most of the goals that they conceded. But at the same time, for the players that were on the field, was it a great performance? No. But was it a difficult game to go into and to get a win from? Yes, absolutely. It was. And even though Athletic Bilbao completely deserved the win, they played better, they looked like they wanted it more, Barcelona just have themselves to blame for this, and they easily could have went to the semifinal of the Copa del Rey. And it's been a pretty difficult season for Barcelona, honestly, and this is just another difficult game for them, but you just got to try and recover, and you've got to realize that there are still a lot of positives for this Barcelona team right now, and a lot of them being from La Masia. And of course, no one wants to lose, but sometimes these wake-up calls are maybe good for the long-term future of Barcelona, because you know as a squad, you do have a long way to go to get back to where you want to be as a club. Thank you to anyone that has made it this far watching this video, and obviously it's a difficult loss for Barcelona, no doubts about it. They have themselves to blame. They easily could have won this game and went on to the semifinal of the Copa del Rey, but still, you got to bounce back and see the positives in these type of games. And thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it.